Here to talk about elbow pain during golf. So a lot of information out there. There's a lot of awareness for exercises at the wrist, at the forearm, at the shoulder. There's a lot of stuff out there. So I'm going to take this time to walk through the step-by-step process of what I would address and in what order I would address it in, and then go from there. Based on symptom irritability, when do you stretch, when do you start to strengthen, how do you know what to do? There's a lot of things that are contributing factors, and I want to make sure everybody has a good understanding of those things as you work through the continuum. First, we're going to talk about elbow pain and what is golfer's elbow. So for golfer's elbow, they generally refer to that as the inflammation of the forearm flexors and finger flexors. So this is your epicondyle, and it's called or referred to as epicondylitis. So all these muscles, there's several that kind of spider out and they come down and they cross the wrist and they go into the fingers and they act to flex, ulnar radial deviate, a lot of different movements in the hand and at the wrist. With golfer's elbow, they refer to it as the medial side, but in tennis, they refer to that as the lateral side of the elbow. But the more I treat golfers and work with people with elbow pain, usually it bounces back and forth. It could start at the medial aspect, then work its way to the outside and vice versa. So this is something that I want you to remember and take into account when you're getting past your elbow pain, is that we're going to be doing a few things to address the medial side as well as the lateral side so we can get a good picture of what's going on. This injury is common because of the control of the club face and the nature of deceleration at impact, whether that's hitting a driver or a wedge and you're having more contact with the ground. So that just deceleration sends force up the chain, and sometimes the elbow and the shoulder aren't doing what they should be to maintain and control the club face and support the joints that are associated with the movement. How long has this been going on? Is this something that has been a couple years, or is this a couple weeks? Depending on which one that is for you is going to dictate how long it's going to take for you to get better. With golfer's elbow, a lot of people jump straight into exercises, but they don't find the reason why this tissue is irritated. So the first thing that you should be doing is you should be finding out, okay, what is giving me the pain? What is pissing off my elbow? What is causing the irritation? That could be several things. That could be hitting off mats in the springtime. A lot of courses have concrete under their mats and they don't want to hit off grass yet. So if there's concrete under the mat, obviously you're going to get more compressive forces up through the chain. Another thing is a lot of people have simulators in their backyard, garage, and usually the only thing that's underneath the mat that they're hitting off of is concrete. So again, you're taking a repetitive movement and you're adding more of a compressive force because of what's underneath the mat. In this case, generally it's something harder than the actual turf or grass that we're hitting off of on the course. Another thing is it something you're doing during your work? Is it a position? Basically, we want to find out whatever it is that keeps aggravating all these muscles and causing irritation. We want to break the cycle. We want to change our positions. We want to incorporate soft tissue, stretching work, braces. There's a lot of different options, and we'll talk about those things. But the first thing to do is to find out what activities are giving you the most irritation and why. The first thing that you're going to want to do is soft tissue work or mobility, stretching of the forearm. So these big muscular insertions where all the muscles come out and spider down on the inside and the outside, feel around, see what's tender, where are you feeling your pain. So a lot of the times the action that these muscles are acting on happen at the wrist and the hand, but where the muscle bellies are closer to the elbow, that's what's increasing and causing more of a pull on this spot, giving you your pain. And that's the same case for the lateral aspect of the elbow. The first thing is, okay, is any of this musculature tender on the medial side and or on the lateral side? And then if it is, you're going to spend some time with some soft tissue tools like a foam roller, a ball, trigger point therapy stuff, and you're spending time on those irritable spots and you're trying to loosen up the tissue. So that's the first thing you do. Regardless of your symptoms, how irritable that your symptoms are, you're always going to start there. You're not going to go straight into exercise. So you want to make sure you calm the tissues down and make sure they're moving fluidly before you start to load them, because we, again, want to make sure we're breaking the cycle of constant irritation before we go put more demand on the muscles. After you've done soft tissue work and you start to notice things loosening up, this is when I would move to stretching. So again, in a perfect world, you would do some of the soft tissue work, 3 to 5 minutes, and then after this you would go into stretches. So you'd want to stretch the pronators that pronate the arm, obviously, and then you're also going to want to stretch the medial aspect of the elbow, which are the flexors. So you're going to go into extension for that, and vice versa for the outside of the elbow, the wrist extenders, and you're going to want to flex the wrists to stretch those. So again, after you do the soft tissue work, you're going to go right into stretching, and you're going to do these stretches. I would pick 2 to 3. You don't need a whole bunch of fancy stuff, but you're going to hold each stretch for 20 seconds. You're going to back off, and then you're going to go into that again, and you're going to perform 3 20-second holds for one side and then 3 20-second holds for the other side. And then if you want to, you can add it in the rotation as a stretch as well. So you're going to do soft tissue, get the muscles calmed down, then you're going to go right into the stretching. So depending on how long you've had the pain, you're going to do the soft tissue work and stretching. I would say if you're an active golfer or you're constantly having the pain and you've had it for a while, I always tell people you're going to at least want to do this 3 times a week in order to make a change. But if you're responding well, you're improving well, you're not pissing it off with the soft tissue work and the stretches, you could do something like this every day. So I would spend at least a week to 3 weeks, depending on your symptom irritability, just doing the soft tissue work and the stretching. And if after 1 week you feel great and you're not irritated at either aspects of the elbow, then you could start to work into strengthening. But I would immediately start with the, again, soft tissue work, the stretches. If you're feeling great after about a week or 3 to 5 bouts of going through that, sprinkled over the course of a few weeks, then if you're feeling good, irritation's down, you've changed your activities, you've modified your activities to prevent irritation, then you could start to load it with some exercises, which we'll talk about next. The next one I would work into for resistance training of the elbow. So again, you've done soft tissue work, you've done the stretches, then you're going to pick maybe 3 movements at the most as far as starting to load the tendons associated with this pain. You want to do flexion at the wrist, you want to do extension, and then you want to do some rotation as well. So those are the 3. With these, I want you to, again, slowly work through the movement, and we'll talk about eccentrics in a second. But with this, you're going to do high reps, and you're going to do 3 sets. So we're talking 15, 20 reps per set, because we're trying to get some good blood flow to these tendinous areas or insertion points, because they're not known for having a good blood supply. If we can get more blood to these areas with higher reps, that'll help the healing process. So if you've picked 3 movements for resistance training, concentric work with flexion and extension, and you feel fine, you think this is responding appropriately, and you would know that after 2 or 3 days of doing this, or doing this a handful of times throughout the week. If you're feeling good, I would then progress to eccentrics. If you're not feeling good, I would maybe potentially go back a step and just do the soft tissue and the stretching, and then lower your frequency of how often you're doing the 3 resistance ones initially, or lower the rep range from 12 to 15 down to, from 20 to 15 down to 10 to 12 reps, and see if that helps. But as far as if you're feeling good, go ahead and progress to the eccentrics, which is controlling the lengthening of the tendons. The Tyler twist, which are those bars that a lot of people do, those are great. But I would again pick 3 movements, doesn't have to be fancy. Same principles apply for the eccentric training, which is kind of the second level of the resistance training when it comes to improving the health of these tendons and muscles. You're going to do 15 to 20 reps. In this, you're slowly controlling the eccentric phase and then relaxing and then resetting. So eccentrics are a hot commodity with the elbow because it does a lot of good things, helps reorganize and stimulate collagen repair, also helps with kind of resetting the muscle, getting the collagen fibers to lay down appropriately. A lot of good stuff. So we want to make sure at some point in the program we're throwing in some eccentric movements at the elbow. So at this point, to recap, we've had kind of 4 steps so far. Addressing the soft tissue or the tight tender areas of the forearm. You're going to move from there to the stretching. Then from there you're going to pick resistance training. The first one is normal concentric exercises, flexion, extension. After that, you're going to go to the eccentric phase, so lengthening of these muscles and tendons. And then the last step is to make sure you're having a good idea of how to modify certain activities to prevent constant irritation of these guys. Then you can also add in a ton of different grip strengthening exercises, and you can do this as one of your resistance training movements as well. But you're going to want to make it dynamic, make it functional, make it related to the activity that initially gave you your symptoms. The last thing is making sure that if your elbow pain is from golf specifically, you want to make sure you're doing other things in your golf swing to change how the forces travel across your arms or the arm that's causing you pain. So for instance, you could look at changing your grip from the beginning. You could look at changing your grip at the top, how you work through impact. This is something I would recommend you talk to a PGA professional about, and happy to consult with that if you have any questions. But you definitely want to, if the movement of your golf swing is causing the irritation, that's definitely worth looking into. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, I like these steps and I like you to do them in a particular order. If you feel like it's irritated and you're not quite there, you generally go back to the previous step. If not, you keep moving forward, and that's according to how you're adapting and feeling based on what I've recommended. So with that, if you have any other questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help and guide you. I will have additional videos walking you through each one of these steps. Okay, we talked about soft tissue, but what's the best way of doing that? We talked about the stretches. What stretches do I recommend? What strengthening do I recommend? So we don't need a million different exercises to do. We just need 2 to 3 basic things in each step, and we need to do that consistently. That's the main thing, is if we're not doing something consistently, then how do we know it's working? So that's the main takeaways. Let me know if you guys have any questions.